Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, The Black Accountant. It's your boy Mo, and if you haven't already done so, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know in the comments of any kind of content you want to see going forward. And don't forget to turn on notification bells so you can get notified when I drop new videos in case you weren't watching for a while and then want to kind of be still in the loop. So, in today's subject, I just kind of want to, since it's December, the year's already almost over, I wanted to hop into that tax pocket. We talk about taxes, everyone's favorite subject. And what you could really do to start preparing for the tax season. 2021 is a little bit different, but at the same time, we're just going to kind of go over some basics that you could be doing now ahead of the game and probably early on into the tax season to get ready for filing. I actually used to be a tax preparer and then moved up to being a tax supervisor and then an operations supervisor. They sound like very fancy titles, but this was within the scope of the VITA clinic, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Clinic, which is a partner program of the IRS. And I did that for about 4 to 5 years during my time at Cal State University Northridge when I was still a student, and a little bit afterwards. So fairly experienced in individual taxation, at least at that income level. So I just kind of wanted to put out some things that you could do now to prepare for tax season. If this is kind of like your first time paying taxes, or you generally find yourself overwhelmed or lost when it comes to tax season, here's some things that you could be doing. So number one, the biggest thing that you always want to be doing, and this is something I do every January, sometimes in December, is start creating a list of your anticipated income for the year. You can do this at the end of the year, but for me, I just like to do it as I move along so that I know what forms I'm expecting to get. And you want to know what forms that you're expecting to get because they get sent to you from different entities, and you want to make sure you have them all when you're coming to file your taxes, especially if you want to file early so that you can get your refund on time or in an earlier capacity. Because if you forget a form and it's something that needed to be reported on your taxes, it messes up your return. So you'd have to go and amend your return, meaning you'd have to fix it and include what was excluded the first time, which could become a hassle for you because either your refund could shrink, it could become more, but it takes quite a few weeks to process that change. So make your life a little bit easier by knowing what you're expecting and then working towards it from there. And for me, I know the names of most of these tax forms because obviously I'm from an accounting background. I don't do as much accounting work now since I transitioned a little bit more towards IT delivery and consulting, which is a fairly different branch. But if you don't know the names of these forms, don't worry. Just know what type of income you have. And if you kind of just Google, hey, I have this kind of income, as in I had wages or I had a job or whatever, what form can I expect to receive? You could do that. Or you can comment here and I can kind of give you an answer to that if I know it off the top of my head. If not, that's another viable solution. So let me give you some examples. Let's say, like I just said, working for somebody. Let's say you worked at Starbucks, you worked at Sears, you worked at Walmart, wherever, and you were working for somebody as an employee of that person. Generally speaking, you're going to receive a W-2 form. And that form pretty much just shows how much income you made throughout the year, how much taxes were withheld from your paychecks, whether that's on the federal level and also on a state level. And not every state actually taxes you. There's 11 states that don't have state income tax, so that's a plus as well. Another example would be, most people in the past 2 years have really been trading a lot, whether it's Robinhood or Webull or whatever account that you open, or brokerage account. You're probably going to get a 1099B form. A 1099B form generally includes whatever capital gains or losses that you had throughout the year. Were you buying? Were you selling stocks? Were you investing? And they also have subcategories of a 1099 INT, short for 1099 interest, a 1099 DIV or DIV, short for 1099 dividend, which shows the dividends that you accumulated or had throughout the year. And those could be their own independent forms, or they could be included as part of your 1099B. So these are forms that you can generally anticipate to have. There's also one for health insurance. Those would be 1095A, B, C, depending on whether you purchased it yourself, was it offered through your employer, was it something that you enrolled in through the state? those all have different forms. So just keep that in mind. Start collecting this. Know what you're expecting, what happened, so that you're able to find those things. Number two, if you're a business person, let's say, and when I say business, it's a little bit more of a looser term these days. It refers to people within the gig economy and solo people, entrepreneurs. Make sure you're tracking your expenses. What did you buy this year for your business? How much money did you make from your business? Were they reasonable buys for your business? Were they ordinary and necessary? Are these things that you can explain to the IRS if you're going to be including them on your taxes? The more expenses you have, the less of your income that you made is going to be taxable. So make sure that you keep these things handy. Let's make sure that we're calculating these things, especially when it comes to mileage. If you are driving, you're doing Uber, you're doing Lyft. Yes, they count miles for you, but they only count the miles for each trip that you do, not the miles between trips. So make sure that you're counting that. And there's quite a few apps that you could use. I can't name them off the top of my head. I might link it below in the description of apps that you could use to track your mileage or track your expenses. Make sure you have maybe like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. Can always be handy and helps you out. And that's on making sure that you're kind of like having that upkeep. Make sure that you have your receipts. Make sure you can prove everything that you want to include on your taxes. They may not always be asked for, but if you have it handy, it's great because you can always pull up the receipts. What else? If you're somebody who's anticipating having a tax liability, as in you usually pay money out of pocket, you don't usually get a refund, you can actually estimate the amount of taxes you're probably going to pay. And you can actually do this as well with your regular job, like a 9-to-5 job. Let's say I anticipate that my salary for the year is $50K, and that's all the income I had throughout the year. There's an estimator tool on the IRS website. You can estimate your taxes. Just knowing the percentage from the brackets, the different brackets, helps you out, because then you could just do some quick math and figure out, hey, I'm anticipating somewhere around the $3,000 to $5,000 tax line. Like that's how much I'm anticipating to pay taxes after adjusted gross income. Like these are things that you can do in advance to start preparing, so that you know, if you're not going to have all that money up front when you come file, and you don't want to be on an IRS payment plan because then you have to pay interest or penalties or whatnot. Make sure that you know how much you're anticipating, so you can start saving up, so that when you come file, you can just pay the lump sum up front. And it's always a good idea that if you're a sole proprietor, meaning that you're somebody within the gig economy or have your own business, that you kind of have a little bit of a savings account of some sort on the side for taxation if you know that you're not going to be able to avoid or minimize the amount of tax that you have. So these are just good considerations to do. And then another one too is, if you know what forms you're expecting, kind of touching back on that, make sure that you're receiving them electronically. There's quite a few benefits to having the form electronically versus through the mail. Number one, through the mail, it could get lost. It could not come on time, which is a big problem these days considering how backed up the USPS is. And you only have one copy. So if you need another copy, you're going to have to keep requesting it. And then every time you request another physical copy, you're most likely going to have to pay some amount of money, anywhere between like $2 and $15 for another copy, which is really unnecessary if you can receive it electronically and just print as many copies as you need and just have those saved. And it's always good to have it electronically, because if you save it and you happen to get audited for a prior tax year, let's say next year in 2022, I get audited for my 2015 taxes, I have that W-2 on hand. So I could just, prove that I had the income. And then there's other ways of getting that, but just anything that relieves your headache up front, or however you can prepare in a simple way, why not just do that? So those are like probably the main ones that come on hand, or that I think about right off top. And then these are also another separate consideration, is for when it comes time to actually file your tax return. You don't have to file through H&R Block. You don't have to file through TurboTax. Yes, you may not know how to file your own taxes and you might not have the time to learn it, but there are other resources available. At the beginning of this video, I had just mentioned VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Clinic. that is something that's available in just about every single state in a lot of zip codes, because it is an IRS program. It's an IRS partner program. And they have their own site where you can find locations near you. You just come with all your documents and somebody's going to go ahead and prepare that return for you. A caveat there is that it's generally regarded as a learning program. So you may have a volunteer who's just learning taxes doing it, but don't really need to fear, or you don't really need to fear, because you'll have a preparer who does it, and then somebody else is going to look over it, and then a third person is going to look over that when they're filing. So you have a series of checks to kind of mitigate that risk a bit. But if you're out of options, or if you're really lazy and don't want to file your own, that's an option for you. And then also, if you do want to file your own taxes and you're just looking for a way to do it for free, the IRS offers its own free filing partnership, its own free filing tool, which partners with certain types of different tax software providers. And then you could just use their software for free to just input your information. It's basically data entry from those forms that you receive, and it'll walk you through it. So you could just go ahead and input everything you need to input and then file your return. Now, with those, it's always free on the federal side, but if you're in a state that has state income tax, you're going to file your own state return as well. And that's actually usually costs something like $30 to $40 on those sites if you go through the IRS free filing tool. So it's only free on the federal side, but it's not free on the state side. So be aware of that. So those are the main considerations that you should really be thinking about when it comes to taxes. There's a lot more you can do in terms of strategy, in terms of planning. Let's say you invested in crypto, or let's say you invested in stocks, and you want to kind of like play around with how you can mitigate certain amounts of gains, especially if you had a lot of gains this year, or how you can play around with losses that you have and carry those forward to another year when you might need it more. That depends on a case-by-case situation. So there's no overall engulfing strategy or overall tip that I can give everybody. That's really on a case-by-case basis. So you would either plan for that with a CPA, for that with a tax preparer of sorts, or just with somebody that you know that's a little bit knowledgeable about these things. And then there's always handy dandy Google. You can always Google the things that you need to help your situation. So let me know what your thoughts are on the subject in the comments below. Is there any specific tax subject that you'd be interested in that you'd want me to talk about? Let me know in the comments. Also, I believe one of my friends actually is going to be releasing some tax information. I'm not sure if he's going to be doing his tax YouTube channel, which I've been pushing for a while now, but once he does, I'll definitely be shouting him out on this channel as well. If you're watching, you need to get on that, but I digress. I'll see you guys in the next video.